Hi paint pouring people. As we shoot this video, it is the middle of winter. The nights are long, the days are short, you gotta stay busy so you just don't go stir crazy. My idea is to do about 57 of these. Okay, I'm just kidding about the 57. But the other day when I did this video, this is the Christmas wreath spin. I thought, what a great idea for a series. I can do a number of these, but I don't want them to be exactly the same. So I'm going to do another wreath spin today, but I'm going to reverse the colors. I'm going to do green in the background, and it's going to be a white wreath. It's going to be kind of a wintry thing. And at the end, I will do the embellishment like I did on this one with some birds. So that will be the second half of the video. But first, you got to get the wreath down. So we're going to have a little fun with the cake decorating spinner on a 12 by 12 canvas. And here we go. Let me get this one out of the way. Okay, here we go with the background. I'm going to do a green swipe for the background colors. I have several different shades of green that I'm going to put down randomly and then swipe them. This is green, one of the best greens that there is. And then I'm going to keep warm this up a little, I'm using my Cocoa Crisp. This is Happy Medium paint ready to pour, my own paint ready to pour. A little bit of Cocoa Crisp down here on one end. It will help warm up this green so it's not so solid. Now I'm going to do a swipe with white. Put some white at the top. This swipe isn't critical. The important part is to not have too much paint on your background. So I'm going to swipe and see how it looks. Do a little zigzag to get some coverage. Since my wreath is white, you can see the cells coming up right now, but since my wreath is white, I don't want too much white back here, so I'm gonna swipe again, because this is going to be obscured by the spin. And my goal here is not to get too much depth of paint. So that's why you see I have some dry edges here. I can move this over with my spatula, fix it up before we do the spin. All right, that's not bad. I'm looking at, yeah, it's a relatively thin swipe. Now I'm going to pour a circle for the wreath shape with white, and I'm pouring it smaller than it will ultimately be because the spin will make it larger. I have some white, and then I have Sparkly Cloud, which is a pearl. A slight variation on the white is what it's going to be. I'm going to add a little more white. I'm trying to keep this centered, but when you spin it, it's generally centered, but you never quite know. All right. Now we're ready to spin. This is my cardboard corral. It's a box with the bottom cut out. You got to make sure it's big enough to contain what you're spinning. This is a 12 by 12 canvas. And you can see there's plenty of space where it won't hit the sides when I go to spin. So here we go. You can see I'm gonna have to spin this again. I've never had a square before. This almost looks like a square. I like what's happening, but I think it's going to need an additional spin in order to expand. It needs to be a little bigger, so we're going to keep going. Line up my box. Here we go. the heck? I love this right here. Nothing happened here. Here, I'm gonna try this one more time. This is what I was wanting, was these space alien edges to come out, but for some reason I must be off center. So let me pour, this is an experiment, they're all experiments. I'm gonna pour a little more white around the edge and see if I can get some movement on this side, just this side, because I kind of like what's happening, and I can always fix this with a spatula, but the idea is to get something fun when you're spinning. So let's see if this does anything. Okay, that's interesting enough. Let me get my box out of here. I think I can deal with this. I like this little edge right here. I like what's going on the outside. My paint was a little light in the center. Again, you just never know. The only thing I'm going to do is shape this up a little with my spatula to get some roundness here, but I kind of like these spiky edges. It's kind of funky. And my idea, which was similar to the wreath I just showed you with the bird and the berries, was to do some berries on this as well, but they're going to be blue. Let me shape up this center here, and then we're going to go straight to the berries. All right, so I got to tell you, this reminds me more of a space alien than an actual winter wreath, but I'm going to continue on with my original plan, and I'm going to put some blue dots in here, which are going to serve as berries on a wreath. They should grow as they sit in this wet paint, so that's why I'm making the dots kind of small. And then after this is dry, I can add some more if I want. Okay, I'm going to call that good. See what the brown did down here? It just warmed it up a little. You've got all this green going on here, and then just a little hint of the Cocoa Crisp left over. I really like that. Okay, bear with me. This is the basis for where we're going. This is not the finished product. This is going to be transformed when this is dry and we add the embellishments to it. So stay tuned. It's going to be fun. It's the next day and this painting is dry. I'm getting ready to paint on the details, but I want to bring you around to my side of the table so you can look over my shoulder and I can talk to you about what I'm doing and why. All right, I'm looking at my dry painting to see what I've got here. I already knew before I started that I was going to put a bird in here, and now I have to decide where it's going to go. So I'm taking a look at what I've got. I like this bottom edge. I like the spikiness here around this outside, and you know, obviously I've got some blue berries here. When I look up here, this is a little flat and a little less interesting, so I think I'm going to put my bird up here, and I'll talk about that when I start. But first, what I want to do is I want to shore up the kind of the roundness of this wreath and make it a little more spiky, a little more pine needly. There are some, you know, obviously wreath looking aspects to it, but I just need to shore it up a little bit. So I'm going to take, I love using these inexpensive nylon brushes, and I like the square edge kind. They hold a nice edge. You can get really detailed with them if you like. And, but this one here is about I don't know, 3/4 inch, something like that. And it's going to work very well. I'm going to be putting some pine needle-y kind of looking spikes to flesh this out a little bit before I start adding the bird. I dipped it in water, and now I'm going to dip it in paint. This is just straight acrylic paint. When you're painting details, you're not using your pouring paint, you're just using straight acrylic paint. So I'm just going to do some random additions of what to me is additional pine needles. I'm using white, and it's going on this white background, so it's not going to make a drastic difference, but it is going to fill in some places, and I'm just sort of turning my brush to go in different directions as I do it. Even cross over a couple of these berries. I'm keeping my brush damp, but not super wet. I have a bucket of water here off camera, off to the side, so I'm just hitting this in a few places. This area here is a little narrow, so I'm going to kind of fool the eye by bringing out some of these white poke marks there, and it's going to help that some. Not looking to overdo it, not looking to obscure what I've done here in the spin, because I do like the looks of what the spin created. Just what I call adding to it. Not obliterating anything, I'm adding to it. A lot of new pouring people think that you have to pour over something or obliterate it when there's actually another choice you can add to it. You could be looking at some of your random pours and say, hey, I'm going to turn this into something. It's always an option. Since the white on white only shows when it crosses over the green, I'm going to take some blue paint and mix my white into that so it's a really light blue. I'm not looking to change the color of this wreath, but I do want some of these pine needles looks to show up on the white, so I added just a really light touch of blue to my white. And I'm going to go through here in a few places. You can do a lot, you can do a little. I'm going to try and restrain myself and not get too carried away. Just want kind of the hint of the fact that this is a pine needle-y kind of a wreath. Keep turning my brush in different directions. So the blue helps. It still pretty much reads as white when you're looking at this. You see whitish, lightish colors. That's still a little thin down here for me compared to the rest of the area. All right, that's not bad. If you rinse these things out, they'll last a long time. Okay, now here's my favorite secret thing that I do. I use chalk to draw on, in this case it's a bird. It's going to give me a guide. It keeps me from having to paint and maybe make a mistake. This is pre-planned here, so I'm going to use, this is just chalkboard chalk. I try and get the softest chalk that you can. It'll draw on the painting easier than a harder chalk. I usually use yellow, but I also have some purple, and I think this might show up a little better, certainly on the white. And as I said a few minutes ago, I thought this looked a little flat up here, and I'm going to make this bird go off the edge. That'll make it kind of interesting. Now, it's going to be a little bit of an awkward bird because I'm going to have him pointing down. I saw this berry right here, and I thought, why don't I have his beak on this berry where he's going to steal this berry. And before I start, I wanted to show you what kind of bird it's going to be. It's nice to think about your colors. I'm going to do a cardinal, and here's a picture of a cardinal. I don't ever copy pictures, but sometimes you might want to look something up and say, okay, what does that particular bird look like? Because I don't see cardinals very often. So I can see that he has a strong beak, and he's got a black mask, and then he's got this little point. So really that's what a cardinal is, and I want to make sure I include those elements. You know, like if it was a chickadee, he'd have a little tiny beak. This is a cardinal. So here I go. I'm going to draw this in with chalk, and since the berry's right there, I'm going to start out with the beak, and I'm going to give him a little point. You probably can't see this very well. I can barely see it myself, but it's just enough of a guide. And his tail's going to go right off the edge. Now I know a lot of you don't think you can draw, and you can see by what I'm doing here, this is pretty rudimentary. And I would like to encourage you to start drawing your own shapes as opposed to finding decals, stickers, all that crap that other people will sell you. It's okay sometimes, you know, like lettering, if you want to buy lettering and stick it on. I understand that. But if you can draw your own shapes, especially something, you know, simple like this, obviously you want to do something simple. I would keep all this pour painting simple and not get overly focused on details. This stuff I did here, that's enough detail. But it's going to be more expressive if you can draw your own critter or person or whatever it is that you're going to do. So this is a very rudimentary outline, but it gives me some parameters of this bird that I'm planning. And it's, believe me, these things are not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be expressive and fun. So here's my other thing that I like to do. I'm going to take some white paint and fill in this bird with white before I put color. Number one, it helps me see what I'm getting ready to do. And I'm going inside the chalk lines. This chalk will wipe away on its own. You can sort of paint over it or paint inside it. Just a little water and a little straight white acrylic paint. Very simple. No special technique here. But I'm filling it in. There's this little red point. And then of course I'm going on the white. You can't see the white on white very well, but I still have a pretty good idea of what my shape is going to be. And their beak is actually almost, they're kind of orangey, but it's almost the same color as they are, just a touch more to the orange side. All right, there he is. Yeah. Now I do need to give this white a minute to dry before I start putting on the red. In the meantime, I'm going to go over the edge here. His tail's going to go right over the edge of the painting. That's another fun thing that you can do, is have your subject, whatever it is, go over the edge, and it gives the painting kind of a continuous look. And then if somebody looks at the top, they see, oh look, his tail is there. Instead of stopping right there, go ahead over, because there's green paint that has flowed over the edge. So I'm going to let my bird design flow over the edge as well. All right, I gave this white a few minutes to dry. I'm going to go with some straight red. I just have a round brush. Basically, I'm just painting over the white. You can still see my chalk marks. That's no big deal, because I can always wipe this off later after the painting is dry. The chalk just goes away. The reason I chose a cardinal is because it looks so great against the green. It's a kind of a Christmas winter scene. Cardinals represent winter, unlike, say, a bluebird. And I'm in the winter mode right now. Just trying to stay between the lines, not getting too fussy. Yeah, what the heck. Okay, the beak is a little more specific. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. I'm going to put it down in red though, because I have red sitting here. And I do want this to be somewhat right, where he's reaching for this. He doesn't quite have it in his beak, but he's going for it. And the other thing I could do is I can adjust the blue here if I want, and have this berry meet his beak a little more. I feel like this is probably about as big as I want, or as long and big as I want to go with this beak. I got some yellow, and I'm just going to paint it right into the red. I'm going to need a little white. Again, their beaks are similar in color to their body, but it's definitely a little more to the yellow side. So I'm just painting wet into wet here. And I may, after this is dry, I can adjust it. The wet into wet makes it a little more difficult because the red's wanting to mix in. But there, it's starting to look better. Yeah, that's not bad. Now, for an unresolved problem, seems like he needs some legs. I guess I'll just paint something on and see what happens. Didn't quite decide what I was going to do leg-wise. I'm going to mix up some of the beak yellow I had, and maybe I'll just do just kind of a hint here. I'm not going to get overly concerned with exact details of the leg. I just want people to look at it and say he's kind of grounded some way, as opposed to having a bird on a wreath with no legs. I try to be expressive and not worry about details, but on the other hand, the left part of your brain says it needs to be he needs to have legs, he needs to show where he is and all that. So it's a constant battle between being expressive and not realistic, but yet sort of the practical thoughts that you have that want to make this look right. Now, really, okay, I think I'm ready for his little black mask. I'm sticking with my little tiny brush. This red is still a little wet, but that's okay. It'll go on okay. These little things like this are the dramatic finishing touches that make a difference. So their eyes are dark. You don't really see their eyes against their black mask. What I'm going to do in this case, just to hint at an eye, and again, this could be adjusted later when this is dry, but I want to show you this right now. I'm taking just a little dot of white, and I'm going to put a dot of white where I think his eye would be. Just kind of remind you of a highlight. Again, without getting too fussy. Believe me, I've been plenty fussy in the past, and I still kind of lean that way. I'm not trying to overfuss the poor painting. Maybe a little hint of a wing here, something like that. Could even that's pretty good. All right, I'm going to take some green and clean up the white area. The chalk is pretty much gone at this point. There's a little bit that I'll wipe off after this painting's dry. Now, as the last thing, I'm still hanging onto my little brush. I don't often use these tiny brushes. In fact, I think I'll switch to a less tiny brush. The last thing I'm going to do for this painting at this time is I'm going to add a few more berries. These ones that were here, as you can see, were added while the paint was while this painting was on the spinner, which is fine. But I think a few more might be okay. I'm going to keep them a little smaller, since when you do these on the spinner, they, you know, wet on wet, they grow. So these will stay. These are, again, this is straight blue paint, straight acrylic paint. These will stay small. And having a variety of sizes is important. Don't make everything the same size. Make the locations more or less random instead of lined up. So I've got big ones. I've got, that one's too small. I've got big ones, some medium ones. Again, they're not perfectly round. Doesn't matter. It's all meant to be played with. It's all fun. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you today. Again, when I do paintings like this, I usually set them aside and I look at them in a couple days and see if there's anything else I want to do. But for now, this is fine. Hope you can see it. Hope this all comes through in the video. And please don't be afraid to hand draw your little figures, anything you want to do. It's fun, it's expressive. People will appreciate something that you hand drew and hand painted yourself, as opposed to these stuck on elements, decals, stickers, stencils, all that stuff. That's all fine, but give this a try. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this helps you think about things you might do with your pours. Again, not every pour painting needs to have something painted on it, but this is an option. I do this with some of the things that I pour, and it just opens up the prospects for your pouring. So thanks for watching, and if you need pouring paint, of course, you know the drill. I have my own happy medium paint ready to pour. This is one of the colors that I used in this pour. You can only get this at happymedium.fun, and check out my social media links below. I also have an Amazon shopping list in the description below. If you need supplies, I have all my pouring supplies on my Amazon shopping page. So like, subscribe, comment, and please, if you end up doing something like this, please join my Facebook group, Paint Pouring People, and post your paintings there. I love seeing what people do. I really appreciate it. Thanks, you guys, and we'll see you next time.